Hi, everybody. I'm Melissa Beck. I'm the head of global communications here at Sumo Logic. We are at RSA 2024. I can't believe we're already here. And I've got one of my best buddies, Chaz Clawson, field CTO for security at Sumo Logic. Hey, Chaz.
Hey, how are you?
Good. You've been a busy man this week.
Yes.
We're seeing a lot of, I'm kind of going through all the boosts that we've seen and whatnot. We've seen a lot of vendors promoting AI. We're talking about AI and cybersecurity today. Why do you think this is such a hot topic for cybersecurity right now?
Yeah, I mean, I'm seeing the same trends walking around the floor. We thought we were at the top of the hype cycle last year with AI and machine learning, but it doesn't really compare. It's interesting. I think, if you're familiar with the term defender's dilemma, which, it means basically attackers only have to find one way in, and us as businesses, right, in the enterprise, we have to protect against all of the different attack vectors, right? So the idea was historically we're at a disadvantage because they just need one foothold, whereas we're, got our fingers trying to plug all of the different holes. That's starting to fundamentally change with the advent of AI, as you can see here at RSA, because we have that concept of defense in depth, but now AI is actually being embedded at every single level, right? Whether you're talking about endpoint protection now plus AI, network traffic analytics plus AI. At Sumo Logic, we have some very intelligent user behavioral analytics that now use AI, right? Our automation service. Um, because we can now embed AI at all of those different levels, I think we've got a lot more tripwires in place, right? We've got a lot more defensive intelligence or chops so that when the defenders do get into our environment, they pass that. They sometimes joke about like the M&M, right? It's crunchy on the outside, but soft and gooey in the middle. When they get past that perimeter defense, there's a lot more happening on the inside in the defensive stack, which is exciting to see, right? Because we're in the security space, and honestly, at the end of the day, we're all defenders, we're all good guys. And so, with the advent of AI, it's so cool to watch all the different use cases that this is bringing to bear to solve problems that have historically been very, very challenging.
Yeah, I love what you said. So it's definitely creating challenges because you're kind of creating another layer on top of already all the security challenges that we have. But you think there's opportunity as well. What kind of opportunities do you think there are there?
I think especially I would say in today's economic headwinds, that as they say, everybody's resource constrained. And so we're all looking for ways to level up our efficiency. And AI brings that, right? And I don't know how often you use, a tool like ChatGPT, but it's like my best friend now. It used to be you,
More
but
than I want to admit that I do.
but no, I've got ChatGPT up on screen at all times, because it just is so good, right? And having that intelligent companion to help you, it means like you've got an additional workforce that's supporting you. And so the same thing I would say holds true for the security defenders and even solutions like Sumo Logic, as we look to bring in some of this large language model technology into our platform, right? So you don't necessarily have to be a jujitsu query writer that can, a data scientist. We can kind of take the propeller head off for a minute and just say, hey, Sumo Logic, can you show me what's happening in this region on my web application firewall logs? And it'll be smart enough to just write the query for you, right? That's going to be so cool, to get into the hands of our customers.
I love hearing that there's excitement behind AI because I know there's a lot of like, oh my God, AI, we've got to like figure it out. But there's a lot of excitement as well. So I like hearing that. One of the things that you have been really talking on the road around, you talk at a lot of conferences, is this whole, concept around implementing an AI centric defense strategy. Can you talk a little bit about what that is and what you mean by that?
Yeah, and one of the topics, I guess, or concepts that I cover is there's really two rules of cyber, I would say. And one is all emergent technology will be weaponized, right, at some point. And that's always held true, right? Historically, you go back as far as you can. When there's a new technology, it's going to be good, used for both good and evil. So what that means for us as defenders is we have to be very aggressive in our embracing of this new technology. And I remember back in the early cloud days, there was a lot of naysayers like, hold on, don't necessarily want to move into the cloud because it's just someone else's computer and it's out of our purview and scope of control. Now, it's pretty much accepted that, if you do things properly, it makes a lot more sense to run things at scale in the cloud, and you can do it safely. If you're not running in the cloud, you're at a disadvantage. So that message is going to hold true because attackers are, I guarantee you, they're looking at AI. I try to follow it pretty closely, and it scares me to see some of the automated, it'll do vulnerability scans and then it'll match that with exploits and launch them and then just let you know, hey, I've got a foothold, right? All of that's automated through AI on the adversary level. We have to be combating that, with the defense in depth that we talked about. And then, real briefly, the other rule of cyber is emerging technologies will increase or complicate our attack surfaces.
Mm.
And that means, we're innovating as quickly as we can. AI is going to be part of the new business model. There's revenue to be gained. It also might introduce new exposure, right? So we have to be responsible. We have to be aware of, possibly things that we didn't consider as, attack vectors or vulnerable data stores that might be exposed. So yeah, doing it responsibly, of course, is always important.
How can DevSec ops teams, and I don't know if it's DevSec and ops, maybe it's SecOps, in your opinion, but how can teams get started doing this if they're not already tackling this?
That's a really good question. I would say, you need to start socializing, the adoption of AI, right? And maybe appoint a champion internally that's going to look soup to nuts across the business processes and say, where can we benefit from this? There was Mark Andreessen, who's a well-known investor and technologist. Back in 2011, he said, software is eating the world. Now that was true, right? It became, it evolved to cloud software was eating that world. And now we're at the point where AI software is eating cloud software, right? So, so champion at the highest levels that if you're not on the AI train, um, you're going to have, bluntly said, you're going to have disastrous business implications because you're going to be left in the dust.
Yeah.
So try and be aggressive with your approach at AI. Like I said, find a champion that can look across, maybe socialize that across teams, figure out ways to use it responsibly, and let people be creative, see what they come up with.
Yeah, I think we're at the tip of the spear on a lot of these things, right? There's some companies that are obviously maybe farther down the road and some that like
Mhm.
know they need to tackle it and they're like, where do I even start?
Right.
Sumo made a bunch of announcements earlier this week on innovations that we're bringing to kind of fuel DevSecOps coming together. AI was the underpinning of a lot of that stuff. Can you talk a little bit about how Sumo is innovating on the AI front?
Yeah. So first is what we're calling our AI driven alerting. And that's really trying to demystify the baselining and detection of outliers, right, in an intelligent way so that as a system owner or stakeholder or a security team, you can craft these alerts that are a lot more higher in fidelity, right? And that's something that security teams have always been driving towards, because low fidelity alerts leads to alert fatigue and just garbage in, garbage out. So the AI driven alerting is exciting. To me, what's even more exciting than that is, we have the ability to attach playbooks and automations to the alert output, right? And so what we've found is, and especially with our most mature customers, as the fidelity of the alerts go up, the appetite for automation rises, right? Because previously, the last thing you want to do is automate in a risky way, right? An example, you don't want to denial of service yourself, or you know disable the executive user's account because the false positive alert, right? So as your alerts become better, you can start to gain efficiencies through automation. And industry wide, we're seeing that kind of rising tide, right? AI, intelligent alerting, automation, better alerts, more automation. Um, we're in a fortunate place because we have a full blown SOAR solution, right? It has playbooks and, I think 500 or so playbooks out of the box. We're just now getting to the point where we attach those to those AI alerts. And that's, like you said, it's getting me excited, as you can tell.
Yeah, I know we're also talking a lot about this notion of modern SIM and or what we're calling fifth gen SIM. I think Steve Stover, who did a LinkedIn Live earlier this week, was talking about the notion of that, where AI is really at the center of SIM, right? And that's a huge game changer when you're talking about XDR vendors or other things. Like, we're talking about something that's really kind of revolutionizing a very legacy technology. So I think it's super interesting times for sure.
Yeah,
um,
it's funny because, there was a while SIM always had a bad rap. Primarily, it was just too hard to implement, and the operation and maintenance overhead didn't justify the value. Now it's almost coming for full circle, right? Where everybody is realizing, you know what, the SIM is actually that security data lake and centralized point where we can democratize security processes. And so now it's almost coming back around to where you'll see a lot of vendors talking about next gen SIM technology, which is great for us, right? Because that's one of the areas that we're putting a lot of research and development into.
Yeah. What's the benefit of all of this to customers? Like, it's great, for vendors, it's great. We obviously have to like address these trends and challenges as they come in the door. But what is this? Does AI really give benefit to customers, partners?
It, yeah, customers and partners for sure. Like, we do have a lot of MSSP partners, for example, that are built on a Sumo Logic backend, whether they're white labeling it or they're just co-managing it. Um, I think that you'll still see, as AI improves, it's going to reduce friction to using some of these more complex security tools. And you talk to a team and they've got tier one analysts. It's hard to train them. It's almost a revolving door. So the more that you can increase confidence with AI to support those tier one, tier two teams, I think that it'll be better for everyone. And then, like I said before, the automation for sure. When you have intelligent, playbooks that are not as brittle as they were, historically, um, the efficiency gains are gonna improve. And you can look it up. Like the terms AI ops is something to
Mhm.
do a little bit of homework in if you're not familiar. But embedding AI at your operations at the deepest level, I think, is fundamentally going to change the way that IT does, business.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a super interesting area. Everyone's talking about it. I mean, we've seen it all over RSA this week. Chaz, you've been amazing. You always have such good insights. If you want to stop by and see any of the things that we're doing here at RSA this week, some of our AI innovations, don't forget to stop by our booth, 6271 in the North Hall. Chaz, I always love talking to you. I love this whole notion of defenders. So defenders stay strong.
Yes.
uh, we'll
Fight the
we'll
good fight.
fight the good fight. Keep fighting. Yeah. Awesome. Thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah. Good chatting with you.